And here's the party freak, Friday freaker, dancing new sensation, grabbing the nation, doing the freak. Call now.
If you watched any amount of cable TV back in the late 80s, early 90s, and you know that you did, you almost certainly were pummeled with a barrage of 1-900 commercials. For years, there were endless late-night ads enticing you to call up to listen to the latest sporting news, stock tips, advice from psychics, what your favorite teenage heartthrob was up to, and yes, of course, adult content. So much adult content. Before the internet came along, 1-900 numbers were everywhere. You couldn't escape them. And if you're thinking, well, no one really called those numbers, no one really made money off of those things, well, you would be all kinds of wrong. 1-900 numbers were a virtual goldmine. They were easy to set up, cheap to set up, and during its Wild West heyday, basically unregulated. A typical call cost $1.99 for the first minute and 99 cents for each additional minute. The average call length was 3.5 minutes. That brought the total to about $5 per call, split among the carrier, the service bureau that helped set up the number, and the owner of the number. Even with that three-way split, everyone was getting rich. Of course, nowadays 1-900 numbers seem silly and antiquated, yet some people look on them with a sense of nostalgia as something that was a part of their childhood, which is interesting as the whole business was basically one big ripoff. So when we're fondly remembering those crazy 1-900 commercials, we're basically fondly looking back at fraud. In fact, there was so much fraud involved that the government eventually had to step in. So let's look into the phenomenon of 1-900 numbers and just how ridiculous and out of control it got. Shockingly, very early on, the very first 1-900 numbers to gain public attention were actually invented with all good intentions. In 1980, ABC's Nightline asked viewers who they thought won the Ronald Reagan-Jimmy Carter presidential debate. For 50 cents, viewers could call one of two numbers, and AT&T recorded the number of calls of each to determine who the audience felt was the winner. In 1982, more than 1 million people called what eventually came to be known as Dial-A-Shuttle, sponsored by NASA, to listen to live conversations between ground control and the astronauts. And that same year, during the very infamous Tylenol tampering scare, Johnson & Johnson even used a 1-900 number to release updates to the public. But very quickly, someone realized that there could be big money in these 1-900 numbers, and that one person was Bob Bentz. Bentz was working in TV advertising at a CBS affiliate in Hartford, Connecticut. Around that time, AT&T, MCI, and Sprint had opened up 900 numbers to the masses so anyone with a little bit of startup cash could start a line. Bentz, seeing how the 1-900 producers of the adult-themed ads that ran on his station from midnight to 6 a.m. never complained when the station raised their rates, realized that there would be some serious money in these numbers. Bentz founded a company called Advanced Telecom Services, or ATS, to assist 1-900 number entrepreneurs, and soon he'd help launch multiple phone lines. ATS's first big success story was a crossword puzzle line with the New York Daily News. If you were into the daily crossword but got stuck on 17 down, you could call the hotline and get the answer. ATS then created a large network of sports lines with an emphasis on college football recruiting. Since there was no internet available, you couldn't just go on your computer and look up recruitment news for colleges all over the country. But what you could do was call a 1-900 number to hear interviews with coaches and the latest recruiting news. Think that couldn't be profitable? Think again, as one Florida Gator fan said he spent $400 monthly on calls to the Gator Bait hotline just to get his info. Eventually, ATS was running hotlines for 65 Division I college football teams, 20 NFL teams, and a handful of MLB and NBA teams. But Bentz and his company didn't just stop there. ATS also ran hotlines for celebrities like Michael J. Fox, Prince, Pink Floyd, and Michael Bolton, each of whom received a cut of that revenue. Wrestling hotlines were also big business, and ATS partnered with Hulk Hogan as well as the Macho Man Randy Savage. Once it became apparent that 1-900 numbers could become a revenue generator, everyone wanted in on the game as the numbers quickly entered the pop culture ecosystem. On Saturday Night Live, Eddie Murphy famously used a 1-900 phenomenon to take a poll on whether he should kill and eat a live lobster or not. Murphy read two 900 phone numbers, one for those who wanted to spare the lobster, named Larry, and another who wanted to see him cooked. Calls cost 50 cents each. Updates on the voting were given by cast members over the course of the episode, and in the span of 30 minutes, viewers made nearly 500,000 calls, sending phone traffic soaring, which became a 1-900 heavy phone use record for years. Spoiler, over 239,000 callers voted to save Larry, and over 227,000 voted for him to be boiled, so Larry was spared by about 12,000 votes. Seemingly an entirely new information, there was even a 1-900 hotline you could call to get information on how to start a 1-900 hotline. So many people were making so much money in such an easy way that it seemed like bad business not to have one. Of course, with all that money flying around, there was bound to be some con artists involved in 1-900, and there were. A lot. Since these numbers weren't regulated, it was a complete free-for-all. People were doing whatever they wanted. Scammers inserted long delays into messages to ramp up charges, peddled worthless generic information, made messages purposely difficult to hear, and charged excessive unadvertised fees. And these 1-900 numbers really got in hot water when they started targeting children. Local and national media reported on a 17-year-old's $10,500 phone bill for using chat lines, a boy who was charged $8,000 for a phone quiz, and a girl who called teen idol Corey Haim's hotline 216 times. Perhaps the most stunning scandal was a TV ad for a Santa Claus hotline that urged children to hold their phones up to the screen. When they did, a programmed tone automatically dialed a 900 number, immediately charging them. Everything came crashing down in 1993 when the U.S. government finally got involved after a decade of abuse. The Federal Trade Commission made it mandatory for all 900 numbers to include a message at the beginning of calls explaining the potential cost and giving the caller a chance to hang up with no fee. Carriers had to allow customers to block the usage of all 900 numbers from their homes to prevent use by children and paper call addicts. The FTC also made it illegal to advertise numbers to children under the age of 12. Then the FTC required all carriers to immediately refund any disputed 900 number billings until the matter was resolved. Around the same time, the Supreme Court jumped into the fray regarding the most popular of all 1-900 numbers, the adult content ones. Who doesn't remember those late-night TV ads with scantily clad women whispering about sexy recordings and racy conversations, all for a few bucks a minute? Well, the Supreme Court allowed a law passed by Congress that created a block on all 900 numbers that provided adult content, except for those consumers who requested access to a specific number in writing. The law killed the adult 900 number business, which moved over to 800 numbers where billing had to be done by credit card. That year, overall billing of 900 numbers in the U.S. dropped from $975 million to $550 million. As it became more and more difficult to collect from consumers, telephone carriers dropped out of the 1-900 number business, and that was that. But just because those 1-900 numbers are dead and gone doesn't mean what they were selling is buried as well. You can still find all that stuff on a little thing called the internet. Free or just plain better websites replaced expensive phone calls. Sports fan lines became fan sites. Sports recruiting lines turned into recruiting websites. Dating lines became dating sites, which became dating apps. Even psychic readings, the bread and butter of the 1-900 phenomenon, can be found on the internet. The pay-per-call industry didn't so much die as just moved online. That being said, we still miss those commercials, which honestly were the best thing about the 1-900 numbers in the first place.